If you are hoping the Celebration Bowl expanded into a playoff format, I'm sorry. It's not happening now, and it probably isn't happening ever. Oh, yeah. It's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire is all represented behind me. We just have the whole resume on my back wall. But I appreciate you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day, every day, Monday through Friday, of course. But remember, just because the mic cuts off, it doesn't mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusions. Starts with an S, ends with an S. Today's episode will wrap up with a new way that even you can actually pay players through an NIL plan. I know that's kind of interesting to me. We have our feature Friday about Felix Harper, a.k.a. Trigger Man, but we start off with just a simple message. The Black College Football Playoffs, it isn't happening. Simple and plain. I'm going to let you know that straight off the rip. I don't even want you to have to waste your time and get to a point. It's not happening. I'll explain to you why it's not happening, but let's get it through our heads, because I think even on this show, we've discussed the idea of it. We might even have broken it down into how we could actually do it. It's not happening. It's just not happening. John T. Grant, the Celebration Bowl executive director, broke down the case for why it's not happening, why it wouldn't be a good business deal to happen, the things that are preventing it from happening, not only before the Celebration Bowl, but then just also scheduling it. It's not happening. In the words of Nick Saban, I'm not going to, so stop asking. He didn't say that. But when it comes to the idea of having a Celebration Bowl, or a Black College Football Playoffs that culminates in a Celebration Bowl, it's not happening. So stop asking, stop hoping. And I won't revisit this unless someone else gives a case that I feel is just superior to this and why it could still happen, right? But let's get into the quote that Grant had that is going to be the heartbeat of this segment, the heartbeat of this topic, because this all comes down to scheduling. That's the key word. If you want to look at the biggest roadblock, it's scheduling. And though that might feel minor, it's far from it. This is a significant hurdle that I don't think they're going to get over because they have found the perfect time for the Celebration Bowl. He says, and I quote, "For a playoff to happen, that would require some monumental shifts. It would require some reconfiguration on the SWAC side, which is likely not going to happen. Grambling and Southern would have to give up the Bayou Classic on Thanksgiving weekend, and the SWAC already has their playoff with the championship game." Let me reread that because this is the heartbeat of it. So I want to make sure all of that is found. I'm going to read it a little bit faster this time. He said, I quote, "For a playoff to happen, there would require some monumental shifts. It would require some reconfiguration on the side of the SWAC, which is likely not going to happen. Grambling and Southern would have to give up the Bayou Classic on Thanksgiving weekend, and the SWAC already has their championship or their playoff with their championship game." Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. They're not giving up the Bayou Classic on Thanksgiving weekend. It's not happening. It's not. So when he says it would require some reconfiguration on the SWAC side, which is likely not going to happen, I can co-sign that. That's not happening. You're not going to break that for the idea of a Black College Football Playoffs, at least not now. We've seen tradition be broken recently, but I just don't know if this one does. This one is it's a little too special. It's a little too special. And I told you, I feel like this is the biggest game that isn't the Celebration Bowl on a yearly basis. This is the biggest guarantee, right? That's my personal feelings in all the HBCU football. I know everybody has their rivalry, but I don't think any of them is over the Bayou Classic. That's me personally. When it comes to being on television, what the game means, my frame of reference from where I have my history in. It's the biggest game to me. It's not moving off Thanksgiving weekend. The Bayou Classic is going to stay where it is. But it seems as if the Bayou Classic being where it is prevents the SWAC Championship from moving up. And the SWAC Championship is the real hurdle. But they really just go, hand in hand. So it's basically, if this game is going to be on Thanksgiving, the second game can't be on Thanksgiving. And if this game is where it is, if the SWAC Championship is where it is on the calendar, then we can't move any other game or any other playoff game to replace it. Wouldn't make sense. Okay. I hear you. Now you might be asking this, you might not even be wondering why they can't move the game up or have more playoff games before. You might just wonder why you can't start the playoffs on the day that you have the Celebration Bowl. Have 2 games that day, maybe a game a week later or something of the sort. Well, the Celebration Bowl kind of kicks off bowl season. And this is what he said, and I quote, highly unlikely because of the availability of television windows. So simple and plain, you might just not be able to do it. So if you're hoping for a black college football playoffs, which I completely understand, I'm never going to turn down more football. If you're hoping for a black college football playoffs, it may be impossible to move it back. And it's highly unlikely that you can clear up space in front of it. So where does that leave you? It leaves you between unlikely and impossible. So it's not, it can happen or it never will happen, but let's be real. Do you see a future where Grambling and Southern aside, we're just going to move our game and everything that we have going on with this game just to accommodate a black college football playoffs? Because I don't. And I will say this, there is one way that doesn't require a monumental shift. And it comes from the last sentence that Grant said. He said that the SWAC already has their playoff with the championship game. Well, then let's make the MEAC play a championship game. I'm not advocating for this, but this is a way to have a quote unquote playoff system, maybe even an unofficial playoff system. You can have it. It's basically like an AFC championship, NFC championship, then leads into the Super Bowl. That's how they do it. That's how they do it in the pros. It's possible. Now, I don't think it's necessary because there's only 6 teams in the MEAC. But if you want to have some sort of playoff system, you could take the first and second place team in the MEAC, make them play. Now, as a fan, I'm always going to be here for it because I love football, and that's meaningful football. So I always take it. Maybe you have, who was it last year? It was Southern versus Jackson State. And then that same day, you have North Carolina Central versus Howard. I can think of nearly 20 people will be pretty happy about that. You have the SWAC people who love saying that the MEAC doesn't need to have this break. It's unfair. And you have Howard who says, hey, we want to have a championship game because we did. We ain't going to get into that. Sometimes I am a little petty with the things I bring back up. But overall, that's a way to have a playoffs, especially if you say the SWAC already has their playoff. Well, we can have the MEAC play. I don't know if there's anything preventing them from doing that. But overall, there's not enough room after to move the game back. Can't move the Celebration Bowl backwards. You need this television spot. You're likely not going to be able to put anything in front of it because you have the SWAC Championship and you have the Bayou Classic. Sounds like it's kind of impossible. So therefore, I come to the conclusion from the things that John T. Grant, Celebration Bowl Executive Director, have told us. That black college football playoffs, no matter how much you want it, no matter how much you think is a good idea, no matter how much you love football and just want to see more of it, it's not happening now. And when you look at the situation, it's more than likely not happening ever. Not going to. Stop asking. As we move forward, it's our Feature Friday episode with Trigger Man, a.k.a. Felix Harper, because he's back to his winning ways. He wasn't starting in the Indoor Football League, but for some reason, no matter where he goes, winning happens nearly immediately. And we'll break that down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. And just like any championship team, your car needs the right parts. Everything has to fit perfectly. You need your alternator just as much as you need your quarterback. You need those things to go hand in hand because if you don't have the right parts, your ride will not be smooth. You will never feel comfortable in your car, and comfort is important. Who wants to be riding in a car that they feel kind of shaky about? Not I. I'll tell you that, not I. So whenever I have a problem, I go straight to ebaymotors.com/locked on. That's exactly where I go. I'm going to go to eBay Motors because they have 120 million parts. I can put my car into the My Garage section, and therefore I know everything's going to fit my car. And if for some reason the 1 in a million happens and it doesn't fit my car, then I can send it and get my money back immediately, no questions asked. Guaranteed fit. If it doesn't happen, you get your money back. This is only valid to U.S. customers. So, of course, terms and conditions do apply. You can go to ebaymotors.com. eBay Motors, let's ride. And as we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day every day. We'll be back on Monday covering the biggest stories from the weekend, and probably going into next week, we'll start looking into some storylines going into 2023. But right now, I want to look at a player who wasn't even there in 2022. That is Felix Harper, aka Trigger Man, because no matter where he goes, no matter what role he plays on the team, winning quickly ensues, especially when he starts playing. But they call him Trigger Man for a reason. Now, I'm a lover of music, right? And I hope you know the song, the Trigger Man beat. I don't even know the real name of it, but I know it's Trigger Man. And everywhere that he's gone, everywhere that Felix Harper has gone, he has left a note around the neck of his enemy saying Trigger Man's hard. If you know the song, you know the reference. Now, in his first year in the indoor football league, he wasn't playing. He got a couple of snaps. I think he had about 40 throws, but he wasn't the starting quarterback for the Bay Area Panthers. They won a championship. This is not rare for Felix Harper. Most times it happens with him between the lines, but you've seen this at Alcorn as well. We're very early in his career. They won a championship. He's won on every level. That was the caption that he posted on Twitter. I thought it was a really good caption, holding up the championship saying I've won on every level, because he has: high school, college, and now professional. He's just a winner. Even when he's not directly impacting, some people just got the vibe. Some people just got the mojo, and he has it. He has it. So you look at Alcorn, won a SWAC title in his first year as a starter. It was his redshirt junior year, but it was his first year as a starter that he won a SWAC championship game. Now, he was able to take that first year as a starter and kind of take it to one of the more illustrious Alcorn State careers that we've seen, where he's fourth in completions, he's fourth in touchdowns, and he's fourth in passing yards. So this really was a great year, a great career for him at Alcorn. But you look at it, offensive player of the year for the SWAC. He was an All-American, top 10 in many passing stats in the FCS. That 2019 season was something special for him, right? Then you go on and you just go to 2021. He has another solid career and just really stacks up an overall great career. And he's going to be in the record books for a while. He'll likely be in the top 5 for a while as well, at least for the next 3 to 4 years, probably, But back to his winning ways, and not just what he was able to accomplish. But this is Feature Friday. I want to discuss everything that he's been able to do. And at Alcorn, a large part of his legacy is where he ranks in the record books. It is being able to come in after Noah Johnson and put together a SWAC Player of the Year season after taking over for a SWAC Player of the Year. And nobody was probably expecting him to do that because Noah Johnson wasn't supposed to be injured. So all of those things come into play. But you look at the Indoor Football League, and this is kind of reminiscent of his redshirt sophomore year, where he didn't play much, but Alcorn did win the SWAC championship that year. The Bay Area Panthers, he didn't play much, but they did win the Indoor Football League championship. I wonder if things kind of follow up and continue that way whenever he gets his chance to start. They did have a solid quarterback this year, but it'll be interesting to watch. Now you get to high school, and then we get back to his playing days, because I didn't want to end off with just he was on the team. But in his second year of high school, his sophomore year, and I believe that was his first year starting at Creekside High School, they went 15-0 and won their first championship in school history in the state of Georgia. Just so we know, Georgia, we got to respect Georgia high school football. I had Trayvon Conley on here a while ago. I think he mentioned Georgia as one of the other high-level states when it comes to high school football, and he's right in that. They're definitely in the probably top. I'm trying to think how many how many states I really name when I'm thinking about them. I'm just going to say 7 to 8 states that I name when I even think about high school football, right? They're in that list. They're in that list. Everybody else, they just have good players that come out. But there's about 8 states that I really think about when it comes to high school football. I name them, forget it, right? You got Texas, California, of course, the 2 big states. Got Florida, got Georgia, got Louisiana. You got Mississippi, you got Alabama. And there's one more that I'm probably forgetting. But those are kind of the set. Did I say Alabama? I don't know if I really name Alabama. I don't know if I really think about Alabama when I think about high school football. But definitely those first 6 that I named. Those are the team. Those are the states that I really think about. So he's in Georgia, and he plays in that state, and he wins a high school state championship in his sophomore year. And they go 15-0, first state championship in school history, first championship for a team in that county in 30 years. And as somebody who is close to the city of Dallas and remembers how special it was when DeSoto and Duncanville were able to win, and it was like, whoa, we got a champion up on the North Texas side. Trust me, those type of things mean a lot when you're the first one to win in an area for the first time in a long time. That means a lot of things, right? So the proof is in the pudding. Whether he's on the team, whether he's playing for the team, whether he just wins. He brings good mojo. He brings good, I don't know, good karma, right? Indoor football championship, SWAC championship, high school championship. In case the resume doesn't speak for itself, the note does. Trigger Man's hard. I hope that you know the song. I hope you know the song. I was listening to the song earlier today just to make sure that I got the lyrics right. But moving forward, one thing that we do want to make sure that we get right is the myNILpay. So I'll break down exactly what that is and how former Howard basketball player RJ Cole has used it to benefit the whole Howard men's basketball team as we continue with Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. Now, RJ Cole has made sure that every Howard men's basketball player receives some sort of compensation. And Cole is a former Howard player who played 2 years at the school. He was the MEAC Rookie of the Year, then followed that up by being the MEAC Player of the Year. Then he ended up going to UConn, and UConn is also in this. So he's going to make sure that all Howard men's basketball players and UConn men's basketball players are compensated in some sort of form. I don't know how much it is, but they will be compensated in some way. RJ Cole is now a Lithuanian basketball player. He plays in Lithuania. I don't know if he would be considered a Lithuanian basketball player. That makes it sound like he's from there. But he plays in Lithuania, and I think we're all still kind of getting adjusted to what NIL is. I can't wait until we get to the point where NIL has been the same for 5 years. I don't think we're close to that. I still think it's evolving. I think it's still changing. And trying to get a grip on it can be tough because so many things change every time and trying to understand the rules. But we're gonna break down what myNILpay is because you can do it. You can use this. Now, what it is it's essentially a trading system. It's essentially a trading system because you can trade money because you're giving money to these players for an NFT. Now, most people who are doing this, I don't think really care if they get the NFT or not. They really are just trying to support the player. They're really just trying to give $5 to the player. But I can't just walk up and be like, hey, man, you a baller. Here's $100. You can't do that. It's illegal, right? Even in the NIL deals, there has to be some sort of exchange they have to give for them to be able to receive. And that what they're giving in this is an NFT, is a digital, I think it's a digital merchandise essentially, and you will get that back. So every single NCAA student athlete is registered in this automatically. If you're a student athlete at an NCAA school, you are immediately registered in myNILpay. All somebody has to do is go to that app. They just have to use the app, give how much money, and then it'll send an email to your student email, your school email. And from there, you're able to cash out. Say, hey, I want this in my bank account here. So this is really beneficial because anybody could do it. I could say, you know what? I want to give X, Y, and Z this amount of money because I thought they did this. And they'll get 90% of whatever I give. They'll get 90% of that. Then the app takes 4%. I don't know what happens to the other 6. I guess it's just up in the cloud, but that's what happens. Andy Dalton has done this for TCU. RJ Cole has done this for Howard and UConn. I think that Nancy Lieberman did it for some school. It may be North Texas. Like, so these people are getting behind it, and all you have to do is I don't explain it. You give the money, they get the money, simple and plain. You just gave them an NIL. They're able, or this is basically for using their NIL deals. That's what this is. So this is not an endorsement of myNILpay. This is just a way that I've never seen before. I've never seen a situation where you could be the one to give somebody NFT. And you don't have to be anybody. You don't have to be with an organization. You just have to go in, put the money in, send it to them, done deal. So I wanted to make sure I explained this at links, and maybe I rambled a little bit. Maybe I repeated myself a couple of times, but it was important that I told you, because I think there's some people who want to use this. You should look it up a little bit more. It's myNILpay. You should look that up if you want to be further educated. But I've explained pretty much what I believe the premise to be, so you can go ahead and get started. So I hope that all HBCU players are able to take advantage of this. I hope HBCU fans who want to take advantage of this for the players send in some money. I just wish I was playing. I don't have no NIL over here at Locked On, but if you want to send me some money, I'm not giving out no bank information. I'm sorry. Just send your love. Just send your love, man. Don't send me no money, but just send me your love. I never thought I would say that. But one thing I knew I was going to say was I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every single day. I truly do appreciate that. We'll be back on Monday with some of the biggest storylines from over the weekend. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.